My fellow Americans, in a few moments, the celebration will begin here in New York Harbor. It's going to be quite a show. I was just looking over the preparations and thinking about a saying that we had back in Hollywood about never doing a scene with kids or animals because they'd steal the scene every time. So you can rest assured, I wouldn't even think about trying to compete with a fireworks display, especially on the 4th of July. My remarks tonight will be brief, but it's worth remembering that all the celebration of this day is rooted in history. It's recorded that shortly after the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia, celebrations took place throughout the land, and many of the former colonists, they were just starting to call themselves Americans, set off cannons and marched in fife and drum parades. What a contrast with the sober scene that has taken place a short time earlier in Independence Hall. 56 men came forward to sign the parchment. It was noted at the time that they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. That was more than rhetoric. Each of those men knew the penalty for high treason to the crown. We must all hang together, Benjamin Franklin said, or assuredly we will all hang separately. And John Hancock, it is said, wrote his signature in large script so King George could see it without his spectacles. They were brave. They stayed brave through all the bloodshed of the coming years. Their courage created a nation built on a universal claim to human dignity, on the proposition that every man, woman, and child had a right to a future of freedom. For just a moment, let us listen to the words again. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Last night, when we rededicated Miss Liberty and relit her torch, we reflected on all the millions who came here in search of the dream of freedom, inaugurated in Independence Hall. We reflected, too, on their courage in coming great distances and settling in a foreign land and then passing on to their children and their children's children. The hope symbolized in this statue here just behind us, the hope that is America. It is a hope that someday every people and every nation of the world will know the blessings of liberty. And it's the hope of millions all around the world. In the last few years, I've spoken at Westminster to the Mother of Parliaments, at Versailles, where French kings and world leaders have made war and peace. I've been to the Vatican in Rome, the Imperial Palace in Japan, and the ancient city of Beijing. I've seen the beaches of Normandy and stood again with those boys of Pointe du Hoc, who long ago scaled the heights, and with, at that time, Lisa Zanetta Hen, who was at Omaha Beach for the father she loved, the father who had once dreamed of seeing again the place where he and so many brave others had landed on D-Day. But he had died before he could make that trip, and she made it for him. And Dad, she'd said, I'll always be proud. And I've seen the successors to these brave men, the young Americans in uniform all over the world, young Americans like you here tonight, who man the mighty USS Kennedy and the Iowa and the other ships of the line. I can assure you, you out there who are listening, that these young people are like their fathers and their grandfathers, just as willing, just as brave, and we can be just as proud. But our prayer tonight is that the call for their courage will never come, and that it's important for us, too, to be brave. Not so much the bravery of the battlefield, I mean the bravery of brotherhood. All through our history, our presidents and leaders have spoken of national unity and warned us that the real obstacle to moving forward the boundaries of freedom, the only permanent danger to the hope that is America, comes from within. It's easy enough to dismiss this as a kind of familiar exhortation. Yet the truth is that even two of our greatest founding fathers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, once learned this lesson late in life. They'd worked so closely together in Philadelphia for independence. But once that was gained and a government was formed, something called partisan politics began to get in the way. After a bitter and divisive campaign, Jefferson defeated Adams for the presidency in 1800. And the night before Jefferson's inauguration, Adams slipped away to Boston, disappointed, broken-hearted, and bitter. For years, their estrangement lasted. But then, when both had retired, Jefferson at 68 to Monticello and Adams at 76 to Quincy, they began through their letters to speak again to each other. Letters that discussed almost every conceivable subject: gardening, horseback riding, even sneezing as a cure for hiccups, but other subjects as well: the loss of loved ones, the mystery of grief and sorrow, the importance of religion, and of course, the last thoughts, the final hopes of two old men, two great patriarchs for the country that they had helped to found and loved so deeply. It carries me back, Jefferson wrote about correspondence with his co-signer of the Declaration of Independence, to the times when, beset with difficulties and dangers, we were fellow laborers in the same cause, struggling for what is most valuable to man, his right to self-government, laboring always at the same oar, with some wave ever ahead threatening to overwhelm us, and yet passing harmless, we rode through the storm with heart and hand. It was their last gift to us, this lesson in brotherhood, in tolerance for each other, this insight into America's strength as a nation. And when both died on the same day, within hours of each other, that date was July 4th, 50 years exactly after that first gift to us, the Declaration of Independence. My fellow Americans, it falls to us to keep faith with them and all the great Americans of our past. Believe me, if there's one impression I carry with me after the privilege of holding for 5.5 years the office held by Adams, Jefferson, and Lincoln, it is this: that the things that unite us, America's past of which we're so proud, our hopes and aspirations for the future of the world and this much-loved country, these things far outweigh what little divides us. So tonight, we are reaffirmed that Jew and Gentile, we are one nation under God. The black and white, we are one nation indivisible. That Republican and Democrat, we are all Americans. Tonight, with heart and hand, through whatever trial and travail, we pledge ourselves to each other and to the cause of human freedom, a cause that has given light to this land and hope to the world. My fellow Americans, we're known around the world as a confident and a happy people. Tonight, there's much to celebrate and many blessings to be grateful for. So while it's good to talk about serious things, it's just as important and just as American to have some fun. Now, let's have some fun. Let the celebration begin.
A light to the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, God bless the United States, the last best hope of the entire planet.
The great symbol of freedom beckoning from a harbor.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the July 4th edition of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media Studios. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Angel is going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right. meaning that you can listen and chat at shrmedia.com. And you can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and YouTube channel. We don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, it's July 3rd, the year of our Lord, 2018. And this is the show where we continue to impress upon everyone listening now in the chat room, listening later in podcast, that leftists simply fail to comprehend the first rule of holes. We've got some great stories tonight. Speaking of stories, actually the best thing tonight, and I make the announcement here first. When I entered the studio, because it's terrible outside, though I broadcast 2 miles that way from the locus of evil, the capital of the state of California, Sacramento. It's terrible outside. The air quality is rotten. We're having lots of wildfires. The smoke is blowing east, basically southeast from Lake County. And outside, it's just reprehensible. It's terrible. But one thing I have to tell you is that when I stepped inside tonight into the studio right here, went over to go look at the thermostat. And because it wasn't all that hot outside, today it was about 83 in the studio, which almost requires a parka these days. However, just on account of because I decided, well, yeah, I wondered. The system was off. I thought, oh, maybe if I just turn it on, maybe I'll just get the fan. The problem with that thought is that last Thursday, I went to attempt the same thing. The fan wasn't even working. I had the system on, took it off of auto, put the fan on, and the fan refused to work. Tonight, imagine my chagrin when I discovered that as soon as I turned the system on, it got cool. And right now, it's sitting at 76 degrees in the studio. Now, if I had a producer, and if I had a sound effect of applause, I would be playing that. Because essentially, I guess I could say that maybe it was...
That was easy.
But it wasn't. It only took, about a month before the system got fixed. However, that being said, it is absolutely wonderful in here. And so thanks to the owners of this property, and I don't think they probably want to be named, but my thanks to them, because now it's like a real studio in here. It's absolutely wonderful. And so what do we do on July 4th? Where are we going to start? I have a pretty good idea. Let's start here.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Here's one of the first happy stories that my guess would be you didn't hear about, because the LDEM, the leftists, Democrats, and American media maggots don't want you to know about this. And that's this. The Supreme Court of the United States, just this past week and a half ago, gave President Trump power over key federal jobs in various federal agencies. This is a story from Reuters.com. SEC judge appointments unconstitutional, U.S. High Court says. The U.S. Supreme Court gave presidents more control over key jobs in federal agencies last Thursday, ruling that the way the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, selected in-house judges who enforce investor protection laws had violated the U.S. Constitution. But wait, it gets better. The justices agreed with President Donald Trump's administration that the SEC, in having low-level staff install administrative law judges, infringed upon powers given to the president in the U.S. Constitution's appointment clause regarding the filling of certain federal points. So just when you suspected that, I don't know, maybe Trump was tired of winning, guess what? There was even more winning.
On Thursday, Reuters reported that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the way the Securities and Exchange Commission selected in-house judges who enforce investor protection laws violated the U.S. Constitution. The justices agreed with President Donald Trump's administration that the SEC infringed upon powers given to the president in the U.S. Constitution's
By the way, there's a really good point coming later.
Appointments Clause. The ruling marked a victory for Trump, who has sought to limit the power of certain federal agencies.
The best part yet, though, that I hinted at, the ruling authored by liberal Justice Elena Kagan could also make it, get this, easier for these in-house judges to be fired by a president's political appointees in agencies rather than it being protected from such action as is currently the law. And that's wonderful news. Then, from across the pond, let's go zipping right across the Atlantic, fly across the country, go across the Atlantic, and this is a great cut that I happened to pick up, and it's an administrator from Poland speaking to someone from the BBC, I believe, and this is wonderful. It happens to be, oddly enough, about a topic that weighs heavily on most everyone's heart these days, immigration. Well, what was said? Let's listen.
Okay, let me put that point.
We cannot leave Italy alone.
Let me put that point to Mr. Turczynski, because let me just ask Mr. Turczynski, how many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you are asking me about Muslims' illegal immigration, none, not even one, will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal.
That's why I love Poland. By the way, if you've never been to Poland or you don't have Polish friends, which I did when I was working for the sheriff's department, but Poland, by the way, absolutely adores the United States.
We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked not about illegal immigrants, I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the
Oh, stop. Absolutely correct, mister.
Reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care. I care about my family and about my country.
Now that's a guy. If he said that, oh my God, he was proud, and the journalist simultaneously was actually taken back in affront. Well, what do we know about leftists? What do we know? Like I said, they don't even comprehend the first rule of holes. That having been said, aren't we told that leftists and people that are aligned with leftists, the LDAM, they're the smartest people in the room, right? Well, let's listen and see if they're, in fact, the smartest people in the room.
Makes America great.
Look at some of the Nazi propaganda about the Jews, and you see a lot of stuff that's really similar to what people are saying about the Jews.
I wouldn't equate what's going on today with the rise of the Third Reich, would you?
What did you just say? You don't think it is part of the Third Reich?
No, I would not equate Donald Trump with the rise of the Third Reich.
I do believe we're a white supremacist country.
If we're such a racist country, why is it that Asian Americans and Indian Americans are actually richer than white Americans on average? Didn't Obama separate 90,000 kids from their
Pregnant
parents?
pause.
I don't know. Where is your source on that?
Does that make this right?
Department of Homeland Security. In fact, Bernie Sanders put on his website in 2015, "Dear Obama, stop separating parents from their kids."
Okay, but does that make this right?
Well, all the images they're using on television of children in cages, those were taken under Obama. I mean, Obama separated 90,000 kids and there were no protests.
Okay, so now we're interviewing you.
Well, no, I'm just saying a sentence. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You protested under Obama, right? Yeah, there were no protests like this.
It was
No hate speak. There was no hate speak behind what he did. I mean, there was no. It didn't come with all that evil, hateful rhetoric.
Like what? Give me an example. I think illegals should be deported, or
Illegal?
like illegal immigrants.
What's
Illegals.
illegal? What's illegal?
Someone who's not here legally. Like someone who broke federal immigration law to come into the country.
Well, maybe there's a reason. You know?
So there's a reason that it's okay to break laws at times. So if I'm hungry, I can rob a store, essentially, because that's a reason. But you guys say everyone is welcome here. That's dangerous.
Well, sometimes people who are terrorists learn the error of their ways, and sometimes we get forgiveness.
You would welcome MS-13 members?
I would welcome everyone in this.
No fear.
How about ISIS?
Everyone is welcome here. No hate. No fear.
Everyone is quite a...
Everyone is welcome here. You're here. No fear.
Right, I was born here.
Everyone.
That isn't it. What does it say again? Completely out of control, promoting accountability, a cleaner environment, equal and fair protections for all people.
Right, so proving once again that leftists they're damn insane, and they do not comprehend that rule. But while we're talking about winning, okay, what about this? Here's an article from RealClearPolitics.com, which the headline reads like this: Trump's approval rating rises among Hispanics. And with that, now again, the reason you listen to my show is because I tell you things that very few others, and certainly the LDAM, will not. Because I'm sure you've heard this trumpeted from on high on CNN, whose ratings, by the way, are lower than MSNBC, and almost in the tank with headline news, which I think maybe 30 or 35 people will be watching right about now. In a new Harvard-Harris poll released this week, exclusively to The Hill, President Trump's overall approval rating rose to 47%, just 2 points shy of the highest level of his presidency per that survey. The main driver of his growing popularity now? A stunning 10% rise in Trump approval among Hispanics. Now stop, just for a second. If I had a producer, that producer would right now be, let's see, a 10% approval among Hispanics. But I don't have a producer, and so that's not what you heard. That growing support among Latinos would surely surprise many Trump critics in Washington and the legacy media who remain fixated on border issues. So intense is their hysteria regarding border enforcement that people like former CIA Director Michael Hayden compared our detention policies to the Auschwitz concentration camp in a tweet, and MSNBC's Donnie Deutsch proclaimed on Morning Joe that all Trump voters are essentially Nazis. Amid that media madness, Main Street America focuses not so much on concocted controversies, but on bread and butter kitchen table issues like rising wages and soaring confidence among small businesses and consumers. Very salient paragraph coming up. Hispanics, by definition, are primarily a working class demographic, as we on average own only a tenth of the household wealth of white families. Thankfully, President Trump's policies of tax cuts and regulatory relief point to a brighter economic future for all wage earners, including Hispanics. For example, an incredible 2 million Americans have dropped off food stamps since Trump was elected. What did we call President Barack Hussein Obama 8 years during his entire 8-year tenure. He was the food stamp president. Amazing how that works out. In the most recent governmental jobs report, wages for non-managerial workers rose at a 2.7% annual clip, the highest in a decade. The jobless rate for non-college graduates just hit the lowest level since 2001. These gains are highly beneficial to hardworking Hispanics as Trump's policies continue to lift the economic underdogs. And yet, the LDAM and GAUPs don't get it. First rule of holes. I'm going to be saying that throughout the entire show tonight. This is an audio cut that I found, a video from a black American who was actually starting to cry when he made this video. And you need to hear, it's too bad you can't see it, but you need to hear what this man is saying with regard to, that guy with the dead orange cat on his head, President Donald John Trump.
I was just sitting here watching President Trump talking about Foxconn and explaining all of the things that he's doing for America. And he had this black lady come up there and give a little speech about...
By the way, this guy is wearing a MAGA hat.
How her life has changed because of some of his accomplishments and whatnot.
If you want to see the video, by the way, he's on Twitter at Henry Davis. His name is Henry Davis.
And I'm just so proud. I'm just proud to be an American, And again, Barack Obama, I respected the office. I respected the fact that he was the president, but ain't nobody like Trump, man. If you want to work, it's jobs out here. And I'm literally I'm just crying because I'm like, it's just a good time to be alive and to be able to witness what's really going on. And we got a chance. I'm just talking about from a black perspective. If you really want...
Democrats don't want to hear anything this man has to say. What he's saying is completely anathema to Democrats. And by the way, just to give you a little bit of a preview, I am going to be here. By the way, no Sackhead show tomorrow. Clint is going to be gone, and I'm going to be grilling and chilling. However, Thursday, I will be back. And we're going to talk a good portion up front on Thursday about the hashtag walk away, because that is a terrible, terrible portent for the Democrats and the LDAM. Oh my God, are things changing?
Work and get up off your ass and do something. You can do it. I just thank God for President Trump. I ain't never met the man. I don't know the man. But I'm just talking about what he's doing for our country and what he's doing for our people. Black people working, you know what I'm saying? Jobs is coming back. Factories is opening up. He helping with the drug epidemic and all that. It's just a beautiful time to be alive, y'all. Y'all gotta excuse me, but I'm wearing my feelings on my shoulder right now, and I'm just happy to be an American and where at least I know I'm free. Go Trump. And cry.
I gotta ask you, on the day before the 4th of July, can you think really of any kind of a better testimonial to where America is right now than what that man just said?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And you are listening to the SHR Media Network, live and direct from the SHR Media, the palatial and sumptuous SHR Media Studios, 2 miles from the belly of the beast, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the capital of California, Sacramento, where the smoke is filling the air, and also the stench of sulfur and brimstone, just because they're evil bastards. The one plus that I should mention, oh yeah, there's air conditioning in the studio tonight. Baby, happy about that. Look at all the people in chat. We got Mike in chat, Dave in chat, Whiskey Dale in chat, Mary Brockman in chat, Beantown Billy in chat, GJ Maple in chat, and one viewer. Great to have you all here as we discuss and perhaps chortle just a little bit at the first rule of holes. Got to cut with Chris Pratt coming up He's a star of Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's also in the new Steven Spielberg production of Jurassic Park. He happened to really set some leftists on fire when he made a speech at the MTV Awards. We'll get right into that right after this. Here's an article by Kurt Schlichter, and it's called "Never Trumpers Suffer Yet, Another Utter Humiliation." Last week was especially glorious, not just because we rejected the latest GOP's amnesty scheme, not just because we defunded the left's union cash extortion machine with the Janus decision, and not just because Justice Kennedy is leaving to be the swing vote on his retirement community HOA. It was especially glorious because these enormous victories, these latest enormous victories, were the direct result of normal Americans giving the gimps, the grifters, the geebos of Never Trump the George Costanza treatment by doing precisely the opposite of our alleged betters' political instincts. Everything they told us was wrong. If we had done what they demanded, we would not be reveling in the fact, in the joy of conservative victory. We'd be resigned to yet another defeat. But Gorsuch, indeed, you never been kissed band of losers. If we'd listened to Never Trump, we'd have voted for Felonia Milhouse von Pantsuit, and we would not only have Merrick Garland, or worse, much likely worse, on the SCOTUS, but now she'd be picking another pinko who agrees with the lib bloc that the First Amendment has hitherto unknown asterisks that prevent conservatives from using it, that a bunch of other rights that aren't in the Constitution actually are, and that the Second Amendment stuff about not infringing on our right to keep and bear arms really means libs can totally infringe on our rights to keep and bear arms. Let's leave aside our booming economy and crushing ISIS and pulling out of the climate scam and maybe peace with North Korea. Just these two Supreme Court picks make Trump the most important and successful conservative president since the Big R. And we wouldn't have any of it if that nattering pack of insufferable sissies had their way. But even today, this dwindling band of bow-tied nimrods, I like that, still whine despite their manifest conservative triumphs. And their numbers grow fewer as the evidence grows in support of an undeniable conclusion. The election of Donald Trump was a conservative triumph of a magnitude we are only beginning to fully appreciate. A lot of us had our doubts, but Trump assuaged them by doing something we never expected to see a GOP politician actually do: keep his promises. I, meaning Kurt Schlichter, I was hardcore anti-Trump long ago. I was not Never Trump, only Never Hillary. I was loud and proud for Ted Cruz. By the way, BZ was too. With zero trust in a New York playboy whose attachment to conservative ideology seemed intermittent at best. I write about my transformation at length and with considerably more colorful language in my upcoming book, Militant Normals, which drops in October. But suffice it to say that I, as have a bunch of fellow Trump doubters, come around because Trump performed. He did what he said he would. Promises made, promises kept. He promised winning and delivered winning. And damn it, we normal conservatives are here to win. A principled loser is just another kind of loser, and especially annoying kind, because he never seems to shut his Zima hole about his precious principles. And the remaining rump of Never Trumpers is here to lose. That's their goal. Team my principles. Always intended to lose. Oh, they try to play off their objections to the president as purely one of style. It's because Donald Trump is so, oh, well, I never. But their displeasure with Trump's aesthetic deficiencies is not the sole nor even the most significant reason for their fury at the orange-y interloper. They're really mad because under Trump, these dorks can't get the White House to return their calls. Trump threw the Frito-Cons out of the family business. They are nothing to us. They are not brothers in arms, and they are not friends. We don't want to know them or what they do. We'd take them out to a figurative... I knew I was going to have trouble reading this. but it happens to be so good. We'd take them out in a figurative rowboat onto Lake Tahoe, but we don't want to be seen hanging around with them. We ruined their scam. They miss the cruise ships filled with marks handing over cash to mingle with second-tier scribes from magazines put out by lesser sons of greater fathers that we stopped reading when they stopped mattering. Never Trump wants to once stand on a sold-out cruise bridge's ship, the bridge of a cruise ship, pale, puny arms spread wide, shouting, "I'm a minor duke of the world." They've been stripped of their silly status. But that silly status, I'm an assistant fellow at the Institute for Conservative Studies and Mailing List Compilation, was all they had. In the D.C. milieu they want to return to, they were never kings or even princes, though they sure dig the hereditary titles vibe. But just minor royalty jealously guarding their little tiny fiefdoms. Sure, the liberal establishment ran things, but the professional cons had their own pretty gigs, pretending to resist, pretending to care, all the while treading water in a sea of mediocrity and ineffectuality. That was enough for them, though. They got enough money to survive and got occasional talk show invitations, and they were secure in their place. So what if Hillary crushed Jeb or whoever, or who cared? You just ramped up your fake opposition pose and let the subscriptions and donations roll in. But the marks caught on. The normals went for an outsider who had zero interest in making sure Conservative Inc. kept humming along. Never Trumpers blamed Trump, and by extension, uppity normals like us who dared to defy them, for taking all that away, for prying them out of their safe, lucrative sinecures, feeding the suckers the line that they were there in the swamp fighting for us. We figured out that they really reached their own secret truce with the establishment. The official conservative opposition pretended to fight, and the establishment pretended it was really an opposition. The punchline pundits like George Will still clung to the hope that someday, somehow, the rubes, us rubes, you, me, will fall back into line and things are going to be back to business as usual. Will started the week off by announcing to great fanfare among the liberals who wish his ilk was still the soft, yielding, useful face of conservatism, that all of us who should vote for Democrats in November, that all of us should vote. Do you remember this? That they said that? George Will included? Yeah, that we should vote for Democrats in November to show Trump who's boss. This is a little BZ interjection here. Are you fucking kidding me? But this conservative insurgency is all about us showing George and his doofus pals who's boss. It's not them. Not anymore. I discussed the Never Trumpers extensively in Militant Normals because their combination of condescension, greed, and betrayal was a huge factor in creating the desperation that turned normal Americans toward the most unlikely conservative hero imaginable. And in my book, I ruthlessly exploit my ability to use the kind of colorful language that fully describes them and their doings. Pre-order it to own the squishes like a boss. This week was a watershed for achieving the conservative renaissance the true conservatives that populate the dwindling Never Trump movement promised us for decades, but never could, and never actually wanted to deliver. Their response to it, not surprisingly, was more whining about how Trump is icky, how humiliating it must be to wake up every morning as a putative conservative who dreads looking at Twitter for fear of seeing yet another conservative grand slam by the guy you thought was really dumb and yet who keeps cleaning your clock. It's still kind of sad to watch the spectacle of these clowns still making fools of themselves. The liberals, they never respected them, though they still let them do panel hits on the occasional MSNBC show to help out with the narrative. And we normals don't care anymore. Never Trumpers are Fredo. Except Fredo at least had the dignity to go away. Hooey. That's why I like Kurt Schlichter. Because he nails it and then hits it out of the park. By the way, now I indicated, if I can find it here, here we go, that Chris Pratt, the actor Chris Pratt, went to the MTV Awards, and he was given some kind of a lifetime award by MTV, a massive leftist organization. And then Chris Pratt had the audacity, the fucking unmitigated audacity, to actually say this in his speech to people in attendance and who watch MTV. Oh my God.
It is our pleasure to present this year's Generation Award to Chris Pratt.
The Generation Award to Chris Pratt, meaning he represents their generation. Oh, how little they understand what they just did. Okay, now I want to point out one thing before we continue. The audience is going crazy over him. Now, after he says what he says, continue to listen to the audience. Continue to listen to their response.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I don't want to lean down. I want to thank Bryce and Aubrey. I love you both so much. Thank you, MTV, for this honor. Real quick thanks to my mom and my dad and my brother Cully, my sister Angie. I love you. I love our family. We didn't have a pot to piss in growing up, but we laughed our butts off every day, and we still do. And a special mention to my son, Jack, who will watch this one day. Kid, I love you. I love you more than anything in the world. And to the fans, I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you. This being the generation.
They have no idea what's coming.
Award. I'm gonna cut to the chase, and I'm gonna speak to you, the next generation. Okay? I accept the responsibility as your elder. So, listen up. This is what I call 9 rules from Chris Pratt, Generation Award winner. Number 1, breathe. If you don't, you'll suffocate. Number 2. You have a soul. Be careful with it.
Uh-oh.
Number 3, don't be a turd. If you're strong, be a protector, and if you're smart, be a humble influencer. Strength and intelligence can be weapons, and do not wield them against the weak. That makes you a bully. Be bigger than that. Number 4, when giving a dog medicine, put the medicine in a little piece of hamburger, they won't even know they're eating medicine. Number 5, doesn't matter what it is, earn it.
Thank you.
A good deed, reach out to someone in pain, be of service, it feels good and it's good for your soul. Number 6, God is real. God loves you.
Uh-oh.
God wants the best for you. Believe that. I do. Number 7, if you have to poop at a party, but you're embarrassed because you're gonna stink up the bathroom, just do what I do, lock the door, sit down, get all the pee out first, okay? And then once all the pee's done, poop, flush, boom. You minimize the amount of time that the poop is touching the air, because if you poop first, it takes you longer to pee, then you're peeing on top of it, stirring it up, the poop particles create a cloud, goes out, and then everyone in the party will know that you pooped. Just trust me, it's science. Number 8, learn to pray. It's easy, and it's so good for your soul. And finally, number 9, nobody is perfect. People are gonna tell you you're perfect just the way you are. You're not. You are imperfect. You always will be, but there is a powerful force that designed you that way. And if you're willing to accept that, you will have grace. And grace is a gift. And like the freedom that we enjoy in this country, that grace was paid for with somebody else's blood. Do not forget it. Don't take it for granted.
Are you as shocked as I was that these words are coming out of his mouth?
God bless you. Please get home safely. Thank you.
And that was that. Amazing. So Chris Pratt got an overwhelming response from the audience. The only thing that I'm afraid is that he may experience a couple future difficulties in acquiring roles. Now we're going to roll on, because we're still going to be talking about leftists and the first rule of holes and what they may or may not be learning. And a lot of people have said, now, if you recall, although I'm not trying to rub anyone's nose in this, but in 2016, late 2016 and early 2017 in January, Beasy was saying, you know what? President Trump is going to get a minimum of 2 SCOTUS picks in 4 years. And then in later January, I began to say, you know what, I'm hearing information to the effect that the second of those SCOTUS picks is going to occur sometime this summer. And guess what? It had, since the retirement of Justice Anthony Kennedy. So, you have to ask yourself then this question. Who could stop a Trump SCOTUS nomination? Could it be the Democrats? Or could it be actual Republicans? And at this point, I can tell you that there's at least one Republican who is vowing to do precisely that if he doesn't get his way. It was Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona, a man doing justice to his own last name. This should not be completely unexpected, because he learned at the lap of the master of it all, the master Republican rhino himself, Senator John McCain, also of Arizona. Now, this is from rollcall.com. Flake confirms he's stalling Trump's judicial nominees over tariffs. Senator Jeff Flake has gone public with his threat to stall judicial nominations, seeking action to rebuff President Donald Trump on tariffs. It comes more than a week after the Arizona Republican first held up the nomination of Britt Grant to be a judge in the Atlanta-based 11th Circuit Court of Appeals on the Judiciary Committee. So here's a Republican operating essentially independently, just like he was taught by Senator John McCain, because after all, it's about them and no one else. If they don't get their way, they're going to shit in the punch bowl, essentially. We've approved a number of judges. That's important, Flake said. But Article 1, the Congress, Article 2, the executive, are important as well. So just to make sure that he doesn't go along with President Trump, he decided that he was going to take matters into his own hands. And like I say, this is perfectly in keeping with what I call the McCain Doctrine, which distills down to this: it's all about me. It will always be about me. And when in doubt, see the first part of that sentence, okay? So maybe I'm not the biggest fan of John McCain. However, a cautionary tale. However, a dime was dropped, though, and somehow Flake got in line. I would love to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation. Now, from ArizonaAZCentral.com, Jeff Flake says he won't stall Supreme Court pick over tariff dispute. Like I say, somebody got a phone call. U.S. Senator Jeff Flake said Wednesday he would not try to strong-arm the Trump administration on tariffs or other issues by withholding his support as a Supreme Court nominee. Great, Jeff. Get your ass in line, you lame duck piece of crap. But he was a lame duck, and he was about to piss in the champagne. That was narrowly avoided. But let's go back in time for a moment, okay, and revisit just how it is that the Democrats somehow managed to get into their current predicament. Back to, I don't know, let's say 2013, and some little thingy called a filibuster, and then Senator Harry Reid.
So let's work together to make government work better. Instead of treating it like an enemy, or purposely making it work worse. That's not what the founders of this nation envisioned when they gave us the gift of self-government.
Now, I want you to listen to what Obama has to say here, because it's exactly what the leftists aren't saying now about this administration. So when Obama says it, it's good. When anyone else says it, it's bad. Well, listen to Barack.
You don't like a particular policy or a particular president? Then argue for your position. Go out there and win an election.
See, at this point, though, he's addressing that to the GOP, thinking in his fetid brain, we're not going to win crap.
Push to change it. But don't break it. Don't break what our predecessors spent over 2 centuries building.
Don't break what our predecessors spent over 2 centuries building. Okay for Obama to say that and recommend it. Not taken to heart. Why aren't his words taken to heart today? I wonder. Why is that?
That's not being faithful to what this country's about.
So, who was it? Just, we got about 3 more minutes, I think, till the top of the hour break. Who was it that said elections have consequences? Or like I said, he said, hey, don't break what our predecessors spent 2 centuries trying to build up. Isn't that what Obama heralds us to do? Win an election, and then what happens? What happens if we do? What happens if we go out and win an election? And I think I played this last week, but it bears repeating. This is Mitch McConnell. Mitch, are you there? Yeah. Oh, Mitch wants a speaker. Hang on just one second, Mitch. Let's stop you. Let's back you up. And let's turn on the volume. Take it, Mitch.
Once again, Senate Democrats are threatening to break the rules of the Senate, in order to change the rules of the Senate. And over what? Over what? Over a court that doesn't even have enough work to do? The majority leader promised, he promised, over and over again, that he wouldn't break the rules of the Senate in order to change them.
That was Harry Reid, by the way, to whom he refers.
If you want to play games, set yet another precedent that you'll no doubt come to regret.
Wow, prescient.
Say to my friends on the other side of the aisle, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
Bingo. Precisely. So, having that been said, are we to actually wield the power that we acquire from said elections? And what about those consequences? Can there be consequences in politics at all?
Walt, how long till you're safe? Till you can work this out?
Were there consequences for Walter White?
Oh, Skylar. No. I have lived under the threat of death for a year now. And because of that, I've made choices. Listen to me. I alone should suffer the consequences of those choices, no one else. And those consequences, they're coming.
And in fact, those consequences aren't just coming, they're here. And the consequences themselves are having even greater consequences. As I referred to the rule of holes, there are consequences to losing an election. They have visited the Democrats, but instead of taking Obama's advice and not attempting to break what our predecessors spent over 2 centuries building, as he indicated, the LDAM would just rather, well, break it. Oh, and a few others as well. Altogether, too many of them by the way, happen to have an R behind their names. So back to the original question. If Flake is eliminated as an obstructionist, who is left? Who is left? And with that question, I'll tell you when we come back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplanestalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. shrmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and Insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, a good, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of...
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's hour 2. The first hour, boom, gone, just like that, done. Out of here. You out of here. The second hour coming up right now. On the July 4th, the pre-July 4th edition of the Bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media Studios, where right down there, you can't see it, but right down there, this is grand, this is white, this is grand. Right down below me, on my right-hand side, right below where that red light is, right there, down below. It's too bad I can't take the camera down there. There's a register, and out of that register, there's air. And out of that register is issuing forth cool air. It's so wonderful in here. It almost makes me want to cry. It's that good. Okay, back to the issue. And I asked before the break, I said, what was the original question? If Jeff Flake is eliminated as an obstructionist, then who's left? Who is left? Capital L or little l? Would it perhaps be some female Republicans? Here's an article from Politico.com. The fate of the Supreme Court could ride on these two senators. Senator Susan Collins took a notable phone call Thursday as she enters the eye of the Supreme Court confirmation storm. It was the White House counsel Don McGahn sounding out the moderate Maine Republican in what she called a preliminary discussion of the high court vacancy. Republicans control the Senate by a single seat, and Senator John McCain has been absent for months. This means any single GOP senator has enormous sway over President Donald Trump's Supreme Court pick. And that's why you can see Jeff Flake was of concern to me, a very serious concern. Well, apparently, here's two more. So, okay, I admitted many times since 2016 that I voted for Donald John Trump, the guy with a dead orange cat on his head, for two very, very specific reasons. The first one was he's not Hillary Rodham Clinton. And the second one was he will make infinitely better SCOTUS choices than Hillary Rodham Clinton. Facts and evidence. Captain Obvious over there in the corner waving at me. Even Captain Obvious says, that's true. That's correct. So I and many others like me, we have been proven correct. Okay, we already are. We are witness to the positive effects of Neil Gorsuch in SCOTUS. None matter more than Collins and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, who also received her own call from McGahn on Thursday. Then on Thursday evening, the two were part of a small group of bipartisan senators to meet directly with the president himself. How absolutely critical it is now that just a handful of votes potentially become. A year ago, the two moderate Republicans, along with McCain, stopped Obamacare repeal in its tracks while helping to confirm Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. Now, as they weigh how to replace the retiring Justice Anthony Kennedy, the two were about to be squeezed more than ever by liberals seeking a Republican to stop the court from outlawing abortion rights, among other potential conservative rulings, and by their fellow Republicans looking for a show of party unity on a massively consequential vote. After all, it's about politics, and most everything is a negotiation in D.C. So why don't we examine some of the top Trump candidates?
One of the biggest moments of this current presidency occurred this week with Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announcing that he is retiring from the court. For many conservatives, Supreme Court nominations were the single most important issue of the last election, the reason they voted, and they'll be watching this very closely. Who are the frontrunners to replace Justice Kennedy, and what do we know about them? Joining us now is someone who knows the answers. Leonard Leo is an outside advisor to the president on judicial nominations, and he joins us now. Leonard, thank you very much for coming on. So we're hearing a number of names batted around. Amy Barrett is at the top of every list I've read in the last 2 days. Tell me, what do we know about Amy Barrett?
Oh, by the way, I will let you hear what happened to Amy Barrett. Just continue.
Amy Barrett's a judge on the 7th Circuit out there in the Midwest in Chicago. She's from Indiana. Very distinguished law professor from Notre Dame Law School, clerk for Antonin Scalia. One of the most articulate and intelligent originalists in the country. Very talented woman. Brett Kavanaugh.
Okay, you know what an originalist is, so it's good to know she is one of them.
No. Brett Kavanaugh is a very respected judge here in Washington, D.C. on the U.S. Court of Appeals. He's been on that court for over a decade. He's respected on all sides of the political spectrum as one of the best lawyers in the country. Spent a lot of time in Washington serving in government, arguing before the Supreme Court. He's written a lot of opinions. Very deep believer in the idea that if you want to protect freedom and human dignity, you have to preserve the structural limits on government power in our Constitution. A lot like Neil Gorsuch, Tucker.
Start listening, and you'll hear a continuing pattern, a thread throughout all of these candidates.
So if you're following this at home, who else should you be looking up on Wikipedia right now?
Well, look, the president came up with this great idea, one of the most transparent things we've ever seen in judicial selection, which is to put out a list of all the people from which he'd pick. There are 25 on there, which is an awful lot of people. But you should be certainly looking at people like Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Barrett, Tom Hardiman, who's someone who the president interviewed last time. He's a judge out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ray Kethledge, who's a judge out in Michigan. There are a couple of other very distinguished women on the list. Joan Larson, who's out from Michigan, and Allison Ide, who's from Colorado. All Court of Appeals judges, all people who really want to interpret the law as it's written and who understand that...
By the way, that evil Donald John Trump wanted to make sure that he stacked all of his nominations with males, right?
The court has a duty to enforce the limits on government power and to interpret the Constitution according to its text and original meaning. They really believe in the rule of law, and it's a tremendous opportunity for the president to pick another justice like Neil Gorsuch, who's extraordinarily well qualified, very courageous and independent, and who wants to interpret the Constitution the way the framers meant it to be.
Can Democrats stop this? Can you imagine a scenario where they could?
This is important. This is critical.
I think if the president has a process like he had the first time, engages in lots of advice and consent, picks a great nominee like Neil Gorsuch, if he uses the Gorsuch model, I think it's impossible for the Democrats to really stop him.
Can you imagine? I think Gorsuch got a couple Democratic votes. Can you imagine that happening this time? Or have things changed too much?
I think so, Tucker. I mean, again, if you pick someone who's extraordinary and someone who really does just believe in interpreting the law as it's written, that's what garners widespread public support. And I think it's particularly hard in an election year like this one for moderate Democrats to resist a nominee who's so talented and who's so committed to being a fair arbiter in court.
And that's exactly what Democrats don't want, a fair arbiter in the court, and someone who is an originalist, who actually looks at that document and makes interpretations on that document according to, the rule of law. What a unique concept that is. From the New York Post, women are frontrunners on Trump's list of Supreme Court nominees. Trump has winnowed down his short list of candidates to about 5. 2 of them female, he said Friday. By the way, he's indicating now that on Monday he's going to make his announcement. He promised to make his selection from the same list of 25 jurists he publicized during his 2016 campaign, which includes 6 women. Okay, so what about names? What about ages? We've heard the names. If given the chance, any president would rather install somebody who could potentially sit, obviously, for years on the court. International betting sites taking wages on the eventual nominee see Amy Coney Barrett as a front runner. There's a lot of buzz about her, and with good reason. Legal pundit John Hinderaker of the Powerblind blog said when he told the Post. Now, I said, you're going to hear something about Amy Barrett. Go back in the Wayback Machine just a little bit. Listen to this. The grilling and the humiliation that she had to take to be a 2017 Federal Circuit judge in consideration. This is Dick Durbin talking to her on her judicial nomination to, I think it was, she ended up sitting on the 7th, if I'm not mistaken.
It is relevant in that you have many times spoken out as a professor and as a lawyer about the burden and opportunity presented by your faith. This article of 20 years ago, which you wrote with John Garvey, as I understand it, you now...
An article about her faith 20 years ago. This is up for being a bone of contention by Democrats. Let's see. If you go back, isn't something like this illegal?
Say you don't agree with. Is that correct?
No, Senator Durbin. I agree with the article's main point, as I said, which is that any kind of conviction, religious or otherwise, should never surpass the law. A judge can never follow or impose that judge's personal conviction upon litigants in the decision of cases. And that was the article's main point, and I agree with it. Would I, sitting here today, write that article the same way or say that it's an exact mirror image of how I would feel now, 20 years older? No. I mean, but
now you're getting a grasp of how intelligent she is and how she's able to field questions.
Thrust of it, that core point, which restates 28 U.S.C. 455's ethical obligation,
Boom, here comes the USC right back at you, Dickie.
Obviously, as every judge would adhere to.
So let me ask you this question. I'm a product of 19 years of Catholic education, and every once in a while, Holy Mother, the Church has not agreed with a vote of mine.
Stop right here. I'm going to play another cut after this because I want you to listen to how Democrats are crafting this narrative against her. And if it happens to be her nominated, you'll hear this exact same shit all over again. That's the point. But she fields it wonderfully.
Let me know. You use a term in that article, or you both use a term in that article I'd never seen before. You refer to Orthodox Catholics. What's an Orthodox Catholic?
Stop. What's an Orthodox Muslim? Do you think, by the way, that were this a Muslim practicing or otherwise, or a Buddhist, for example, or a Shinto priest, do you think they would be treated as they're treating her now?
As I recall, that term... we said something like, for lack of a better term, we're using the term Orthodox Catholic, and there was a long footnote saying, that was an imperfect term. It could, refer to Orthodox Judaism, Greek Orthodox. And so we kind of cast about, but what that term was designed to capture, because we were talking about conscientious objection, was a judge who accepted the church's teaching that the death penalty would be impermissible in that case. We wrote about it from the perspective of a Catholic judge because my professor, John Garvey, had already undertaken that project, but it's really a problem that could face a judge of any religion or no religion at all who had a conscientious objection to the death penalty.
Do you consider yourself an Orthodox Catholic?
I am a Catholic, Senator Durbin. Orthodox Catholic...
What difference does it make, Dickie?
We kind of... As I said, in that article, we just kind of use that as a proxy. It is not some...
What kind of a Muslim are you, by the way? Do you believe in, are you a Shia? Are you a Sunni?
My knowledge, a term currently in use, but if you're asking whether I take my faith seriously and I'm a faithful Catholic, I am, although I would stress that my personal church affiliation or my religious belief would not bear on the discharge of my duties as a judge.
Okay, then here came, I want you to hear this, because this is guaranteed what's going to happen again if it happens to be Amy Barrett who receives the nod from President Trump. Remember that line from Dianne Feinstein, because you're going to hear it, because Dianne Feinstein, she decided that it was a great idea to just lump up on Barrett's faith, okay? Remember this line from Di-Fi, the dogma lives loud within you.
That your religious beliefs should prevail. But over time, we learn to also judge what they think and whether their thoughts enable them to be free.
Wait a minute. let's sum this up. And I throw this out to everyone listening live now, listening in podcast, and the people in chat. Is this something that we're not allowed to do? Is this a religious test? You tell me.
To observe the law.
So in spite of the fact that you had written in an earlier article that Catholic judges, and you would be a Catholic judge, you would not recuse yourself from death penalty cases. Well, then let me pose the question. Then if you were not up for a circuit court, but for a district court, would you recuse yourself as a Catholic judge from death penalty cases?
Why is it that so many of us on this side have this very uncomfortable feeling that...
Here we go. Finally, she's going to come out and just fucking say it.
You know, dogma and law are two different things. And I think whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different. And I think in your case, Professor...
Listen to this.
When you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. And that's of concern when you come to big issues.
This is a religious test for her.
Large numbers of people have fought for years in this country.
Basically, what she tried to do is justify violating the Constitution.
Several conservative groups are accusing you of being anti-Catholic because you were questioning one of the president's judicial nominees, and you talked about the fact that dogma and law are two different things, but that dogma lives loudly within you. Can you explain what happened?
Well, first of all, let me say this. I'm a product of Catholic education from the Convent of the Sacred Heart. I sat in doctrine classes for 4 years, 5 days a week. I think Catholicism is a great religion. I have great respect for it. I've known many of the archbishops that have been in my community. We've had dinner together.
Okay, stop. I've had enough of that shit. What she means is you can't have any religiosity in any of the federal benches at all. You absolutely, let's just say it plainly and put it out there because I value honesty and I value clarity. Anyone as far as a leftist Democrat or an American media maggot, the LDAM is concerned, you have to be absolutely 100%, no bones about it, you have to be a secularist, period. Funny how the religion of Democrats is never questioned because these days people like Nancy Pelosi, remember her pulling the religion card frequently? But that's okay. That's just fine. Bush question then, though, however, as we continue. Is there a Harriet Mier among any of these people? Joan Larson, 49, is also in the running, Hinderocker said. She was confirmed to the federal bench in November without a lot of fireworks on a 60-38 vote. She passed so easily, such a short time ago, you'd have to ask why anyone who voted for her would oppose her now. That's an interesting point, and that's a very valid point. Murkowski opposed President Barack Obama's appointee, Elena Kagan, but otherwise, she and Collins have voted for nominees under presidents of both parties. Collins and Murkowski met both with Obama nominee Merrick Garland, who never received a hearing in the Judiciary Committee because it was on the cusp of a presidential election. The two senators said this nominee will be no more important than any other Supreme Court votes they've cast, but each acknowledged the political stakes might be higher than ever, given their party's narrow majority, the approaching midterms, and the potential for the Supreme Court to be reshaped for a generation. Stop. The Supreme Court is not going to be shaped for a generation. The Supreme Court potentially could be reshaped for 2 generations. I predicted there was going to be 2 SCOTUS picks. I think I said this earlier on a show, but I'm saying it now. Let's see. On the left coast, 9:24 p.m., July 3rd, 2018, BZ says before the end of President Donald John Trump's 4-year term, his first term, he's going to get a third opportunity for a SCOTUS pick. This is what goes on in the Senate. Sometimes you're in the pressure cooker, Murkowski said. Asked whether a pressure campaign could backfire as it did on Obamacare's repeal, she paused and replied, I could just say something flip, like, watch me. Then she added, I don't mean to be flip. I take it very, very seriously. Okay, they both enjoy the spotlight focused on them. They enjoy the fact that perception indicates they possess, both of them, sufficient power to obstruct a very, very serious vote, and very seriously desired by President Trump. They enjoy the recognition of their power, however intermittent it might be. Alaska and Maine don't customarily acquire a whole lot of power in terms of states. So they have to grab for their 15 minutes of fame wherever they can. And then Alan Dershowitz weighs in, who's becoming more unleftist day by day by day, because he, unfortunately for him, damn it, he speaks a lot about common sense.
I think the most important thing, if he wants to unite the country and broaden his own base, is to pick a true conservative libertarian, one who emphasizes
This is Alan Dershowitz.
Individual liberty over the power of the state. One who
liberty over the power of the state. This is Alan Dershowitz, a leftist.
Believes in judicial restraint, who recognizes precedent.
Precedent, religious restraint, all the things that are anathema to the LDAM.
Shouldn't be focusing on particular cases like Roe versus Wade. He should be thinking about the future. We don't know what will come before the Supreme Court 10, 20 years from now.
No.
When you think about some of the past horrible cases, Karamatsu, where we detained 110,000 Japanese Americans, it was the liberals who supported that and the conservatives who dissented. Or when they allowed sterilization.
Oh, that's right. Historically speaking, that also happens to have occurred for a democratic history. Anybody think slavery?
Of mentally challenged.
Anybody think KKK? Anybody remember who started the KKK and what they were underneath the sheets?
People. It was the liberals who supported that, and one lone conservative Catholic justice who said liberty doesn't permit that.
Yeah.
So
uh-oh, C-word, Catholic.
If he can pick a genuine libertarian rather than somebody who's oriented towards state power, it will contribute enormously to the country and enormously to bringing the people together.
So his
Okay, so here's also the deal. What have I got? I've got about 2 more minutes before the bottom of the hour. So there are some very political decisions that need to be made, not just by these 2 women, but also by Democrats. So the question is, now, the concern is, if Jeff Flake steps across the aisle, if Murkowski and Collins step across the aisle. But the other question unasked at this point is, okay, wait, what about the Democrats themselves? By the way, there are elections of Democrats coming up in November in 10, count them, 10 states where Trump took those states. And so the people in those states are probably going to want their representative to continue representing what Donald John Trump wants out of D.C. So that's another very serious question that they're going to have to answer, I should say, Democrats. And that's this. What happens? How am I going to temper my vote? I'm going to have to explain my vote. I'm going to have to either explain my vote to the left or I'm going to have to explain my vote to the right. And am I willing to sacrifice my vote for a SCOTUS candidate just to make a point and to keep in lockstep with the rest of the Democrats? And of course, all the Democrats know how damn close it is. Incredibly close. But the pressure is on. The pressure is on both sides. And we no longer have a filibuster. So it's going to come down, it could come down to a vote, one vote. That's why this is critical. And there will be a fight. The fight If we thought there was a fight for Gorsuch, if you don't think that every Democrat is going through every Senate rule book right now in order to find the one little line that will allow them to literally shit in Donald Trump's punch bowl so that he will not be able to get his SCOTUS nominations, you can bet that they're all going through those books right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the terrible internal battles that the Democrats and the leftists and the American media maggots are watching right now. And those battles, it's going to be like a battle royale. I've got so much more buttery political goodness. Don't go nowhere, please.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's the final half hour of the show. It's the final 25. Thanks for listening. Thanks for so many people being in the chat room tonight. Good night to Mary, to the people that are still in chat. Mike, Simone, Mary, Whiskey Dale, Dave, White Mamba, Beantown Billy, and GJ Maple. Thank you ever so kindly for being here tonight, especially the night before the 4th of July. I really appreciate your presence in the chat room, and come back. You are all welcome all the time right here. In the meantime, Kel Fritzy, before she left, sent me the URL in chat of this particular story that I need to go over with you right now, because this is imperative. There is an individual who is getting literally railroaded by the entire UK, the United Kingdom, and he was the creator of the English Defense League, and that's Tommy Robinson. Here's an article from KipperCentral.com. Exclusive. Tommy's appeal judge declares Tommy guilty before an appeal. As I'm sure you're all aware, Tommy Robinson's appeal will be heard on July 10th by Lord Brian Levison. However, Lord Levison gave an interview to the BBC Radio 4's Law in Action program on June 24th, in which he used the case of Mr. Robinson as an example of when posting material on the internet can lead to imprisonment due to contempt of court. This means, I would submit, that already, before the case has even been heard, and therefore before Lord Levison has had all the facts of the case presented to him, that he has in fact predetermined the guilt of Mr. Robinson and is therefore unable to impartially judge his appeal. And let's see, I believe there's an audio cut of this. Let's see if I can get this to go.
Presumably you've got to try and stop members of the public commenting on high-profile criminal trials.
Well, members of the public ought to know that publishing comments which impact unfairly on the conduct of a criminal trial could constitute contempt of court. And there is a very good recent example of a man who videoed material which he fed into the internet, which did constitute contempt of court, as a result of which he was sentenced to a term of imprisonment.
This is Tommy Robinson.
It is indeed.
And Tommy Robinson was railroaded. More on that story. That is a developing story. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, leftists continue to completely fail to understand what the first fucking rule of holes is. And that's, when you're in a hole, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. They don't get it. They don't grok that concept. God bless them for being as stupid as they are. Because just when they insisted that blue wave is going to steamroller you and me and everyone else, and then it's not just going to be a blue wave. No, it'll be a blue tsunami, and it'll steamroller everyone that gets in its way come November. And let's see, this is July, June, July. We have August, September, October. We have 4 months. So things could change, but I ask you, how are things going to change? Here's an article. Nasty Tea Party style internal battle looms for Democrats because they keep doubling down on stupid. Representative Joseph Crowley's primary loss last Tuesday sent shockwaves through congressional Democrats who face the prospect of nasty internal battles every bit as divisive as the Tea Party-fueled fights Republicans suffered in recent years. Liberal lawmakers said 28-year-old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's victory in the New York City district over Mr. Crowley, a 20-year veteran of Capitol Hill and the fourth-ranking Democrat in the House, shows activists are hungering for a change in tone and direction at the top of their party. Ocasio-Cortez, OC, a former organizer for Senator Bernard Sanders and a self-identified Democratic socialist, ran on a Sanders-esque agenda that included government-sponsored health care and tuition-free college for all Americans, and the abolishment of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency responsible for combating gangs and deporting illegal aliens. But then, who else is in this mix as well? And who else is at loggerheads with, I don't know, say Little Chucky Schumer, and also at loggerheads with Nancy Pelosi, San Fran Nan? Who would that be? I think I have a pretty good idea. Let's see if this plays.
I am prepared to make whatever sacrifices needed to be made. I am not about to let this country go by the way of Donald Trump. We are sick and tired of him. He's been there too long. They dare me to say impeach him. Today I say impeach 45.
So here's the deal. Maxine Waters, what she says now is that as far as she's concerned, she's done with nice guy politics. So from the perspective of a lot of House Democrats, Mad Max has the right message. She's just not the right messenger. She's from L.A., and her early calls for President Trump's impeachment and viral showdowns with administrative officials have endeared Waters to the party's young liberal base. And those stances have also garnered the respect of many House Democrats who admire how Waters, 79 years of age, is sticking to her political convictions. Representative Gwen Moore, Democrat from Wisconsin, says she's up to date, she's smart, she's authentic, and she's not scared to express herself. However, I should remind everyone that her most recent remarks encouraging public confrontation with cabinet members, which of course is occurring, I told you all about that last Thursday night, and I had all the audio cuts to back it up as well. It rankled some of those colleagues and raised concerns about how Waters would handle increased authority if Democrats regain control of the House in November. Here's the turd in the punch bowl. House and Senate minority leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer condemned her comments, while other Democrats distanced themselves from her. Waters is aware that she sometimes pushes the envelope, according to a former aide who said the Congresswoman thinks Democrats as a whole have engaged in nice guy politics for way too long. Well, it seems to me the Democrats, they have a big problem on their hands. So remember what I said about the first rule of holes and leftists? And remember what I said about leftists these days, and especially the DNC doubling down? Well, the DNC chair right now is a dude named Tom Perez. They almost elected a Muslim, Keith Ellison, as DNC chair. I wish to God they had. What a field day I would be having right now. But here's DNC chair Tom Perez talking about the OC herself.
Now, something else happened last week. There was a primary in several states, your state, home state of Maryland, and also up in New York, where...
This is the Bill Press show.
The fourth most powerful Democrat in the United States Congress, Congressman Joe Crowley, was knocked out by a young woman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, 28 years old, never ran for office before. Big progressive, calls herself a Democratic socialist, actually, like Bernie Sanders did.
So what's her future? Hey, Tommy tells us what her future is.
She was a Bernie Sanders supporter. And in Maryland, Ben Jealous, another strong progressive, wins the Democratic nomination for governor. What's this tell you about where the Democratic Party's going today?
Well, my daughters, I have 3 kids, 2 of whom are daughters. One just graduated college, one is in college, and they were both texting me about their excitement over Alexandria because she represents the future of our party.
OC, a Democrat socialist. Let that sink in for a while. Democrat socialist. OC is the future of the Democrat Party. Well, just changed the D to an S.
She ran a spirited campaign. I have great respect for Joe Crowley. Joe Crowley is a good Democrat. He was one of the sponsors of the Medicare for All bill. He's fought the good fight.
Yeah, but what that translates to is he's old. He's not in keeping with Gaia's great plan in the Democrat Party right now, and he was kicked to the curb, and now it's time for socialism. Socialism must have free reign in the Democrat Party. This is an interesting article that I found from someone who is a never-Trumper, and he doesn't listen to this show. I'm not going to name him. But if there were ever, he I'm sure is all about licking the boots of George Will and Bill Kristol, because he's a never-Trumper, because he's offended by Trump. He is offended that Trump says things and calls people's names. He's not interested really in what's happening, but he's a massive never-Trumper. Okay, good for him. That's great. He has a great musical knowledge, by the way. He knows who he is. But he happened to ship this article out on Twitter today, and I took a look at it, and I thought, hey, this is an interesting article, because it's from someplace I almost never read. Have you ever heard of the BabylonBee.com? I have not. I find the headline on this interesting, and that's actually what caught my eye. Is the headline reads in the BabylonBee.com: Socialism, touching hot stove, sticking face in sack full of badgers. Now, what? Sticking your face in a bag full of badgers. Wow, that conjured up one fuck of a visual for me. So I had to read the article, and it's this. While most Americans are hostile to socialism, touching a hot stove, and sticking one's face in a sack full of badgers, surveys show that millennials are much more open to these dangerous ideas and activities than previous generations, finding themselves pessimistic about the future and saddled with student debt. I wonder whose responsibility that was. Oh, that's right. That's when the federal government took over student loans and then guaranteed that university prices could do nothing but skyrocket. Thanks, government. Great idea. Millennials often turn to socialism and also tend to say things like, hey, maybe it'd be fun to touch that hot, glowy thing above the oven. These new attitudes towards stove touching, putting one's face in a sack full of badgers, and socialism is changing the Democrat Party, already resulting in a surprise win for Alexandria OC in the New York 14 primary, who openly ran on a platform of Democrat socialism, along with Democratic sticking your face in a sack full of badgers, which is fundamentally different from the old style of just sticking your face in a sack full of badges, according to Ocasio-Cortez. The system has failed in getting a close look at badgers. OC, she actually said that. Told an enthused crowd, it's time to just stick our face in a sack full of badgers. And what happens when traditional, as I indicated before, people who have stayed with the staid, S-T-A-I-D, old Democrat Party, what happens when, just like me and some other people like me, I watched the Republican Party start to gradually walk away from me, and then it kind of sauntered, and then it started to waltz away from me. Now it wavers, but now here's Alan Dershowitz saying, you know what? I'm not going to let the Democrats steal my party away from me. Harvard Law professor, Fox News contributor Alan Dershowitz warned the Democratic Party, it's going to lose his support as well as the midterm and presidential elections if candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders keep winning. I won't let the Democrats steal my party from me. I want to regain the center, Dershowitz told WABC Radio's Curtis and Cosby show on Tuesday. That's interesting. Let's see. Is there an audio cut along with this? No, that's just audio, although I could put it in the background, I guess. But there's more, okay? There's always more. This, however, is an audio cut. And this, maybe I could have put this, we got about another 10 more minutes before the end of the show. I was considering putting this up front with happy stories because, again, this is a story you really haven't heard much from. And that's this. The feds are starting to distribute grant money to non-sanctuary cities. And isn't that interesting? Let's see. And it goes something like this. The Justice Department said Wednesday it had begun distributing hundreds of millions of dollars in grant money that's been tied up in a major court battle over sanctuary cities. Burn Justice Assistant grants are used by localities and police departments across the nation to pay for equipment, training, personnel, or other pressing needs. The Trump administration last year said it would condition the money on localities' willingness to cooperate in holding illegal immigrants for pickup by federal deportation officers, ICE, in other words. Chicago sued, saying the conditions weren't part of federal law. And a federal district court had ruled for Chicago but issued a nationwide injunction saying the conditions couldn't be applied to the Byrne grants. The Justice Department put nearly $200 million in 2017 money on hold as the case proceeded. However, again, winning. On Tuesday, an appeals court narrowed the ruling saying that while the district court could decide the fate of Chicago's practices, it couldn't tie the hands of the entire country. So guess what? Those hands are now not tied. Another thing, this is going to occur, let's see, in 3 more days. And I'm going to be really willing, really curious to see where this goes. Because as far as I'm concerned, the House Intelligence Committees have all been way too nice. They've been giving the DOJ considerable leeway over a year regarding subpoenaed documents that they have demanded, and the DOJ has consistently stalled on that, and I played all the Rosenstein cuts last Thursday, about what he was doing. Here's an article that says, the House imposes a July 6th deadline for DOJ to turn over Russia documents. The House voted Thursday to impose a 1-week deadline on the Justice Department to turn over sensitive documents detailing the FBI's handling of investigations during the 2016 election, ramping up the heat in a major separation of powers battle. The Justice Department has resisted, saying it's never turned over the kind of information Congress is requesting. Stop. It's never been done before, so we can't do it. Hello, welcome, deep state. Shake hands and keep out fighting. The DOJ, they warned it could compromise sources and methods used in investigations into the Hillary Clinton's email practices, the Clinton Foundation, and Trump campaign interactions with Russian operatives. House GOP leaders said that after basically months of back-and-forth crap, they're fed up. And they're determined to assert their primacy as the government's chief overseers. They set a July 6th deadline for compliance with a series of subpoenas and lesser document requests issued by the Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. So let's see where that goes. And just when you think it couldn't get more complicated, it gets more complicated. Devin Nunes from California sticks his face in a sack full of badgers. Once again, it's a story from Breitbart. Nunes refers, this is great, I just keep hitting, Devin, keep hitting, Republicans, keep hitting. Continue with the head blows, continue with the jaw, continue with the body blows, the uppercuts. Don't stop hitting. Nunes refers 10 Obama officials to House Judiciary and Oversight Committee task force. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, Republican from California, one of the few left, on Monday referred 10 current and former U.S. officials to the House Judiciary and Oversight and Government Reform Committee's joint task force as it investigates potential DOJ and FBI wrongdoings related to the Trump-Russia probe. And then there was this. DOJ, as I just indicated, the DOJ has until July 6th to cough up a bunch of documents. Then there was this. The DOJ wants to continue to obstruct document production, and guess what? A federal judge said no. This is from Judicial Watch. You need to go frequently to judicialwatch.com. Tom Fitton does God's business at judicialwatch.com. Federal court orders DOJ to begin searching and producing Fusion GPS records in response to Judicial Watch lawsuit. Judicial Watch announced U.S. District Court Judge Reggie B. Walton instructed the Justice Department to immediately begin producing records about DOJ communications about Nellie Orr, the wife of senior DOJ official Bruce Orr. Nellie Orr worked for the Clinton campaign under vendor Fusion GPS on the anti-Trump dossier campaign document. But here was the point, and this is why you know that the DOJ is corrupt. The DOJ didn't even want to begin that search for 6 months following Judicial Watch winning a lawsuit which demanded those very self-same records. DOJ historically has absolutely frittered time away purposely on the back end, and now they want to fritter time away on the front end and then continue to fritter away time on the back end. So Judge Walton rejected a Justice Department request to begin producing documents 6 months from now and ordered the DOJ to begin producing documents immediately on a rolling basis over the next 2 months. The DOJ is nothing but obstructionist, period, end of statement. How can you trust that agency? How at all?
We're in court this week on communications between the Justice Department.
This is Tom Fitton, by the way, who is in charge of Judicial Watch. He's basically their face.
Department and Nellie Orr. Who's Nellie Orr? She worked for Fusion GPS on the Clinton DNC dossier issue, the anti-Trump Russia dossier. She also happened to be married, not happened to be. It's no coincidence she was married to Bruce Orr, who I think was number 4 at the Justice Department at the time.
That's exactly it.
So we asked for something simple. Give us communications about, give us documents about communications between the AG's office and other offices and Nellie Orr. We asked for that 6 months ago, back in December. And what is the Justice Department doing? They're saying, oh, we don't want to search for we don't want to search for those records for 2015, 16, and 17 as you asked. We just want to search for 1 year, and we don't want to search the AG's office. We want to limit that search, and we don't want to search here, we don't want to search there. And by the way, we need another 6 months to do it. So we were in court yesterday. Our lawyer was Ramona Kotka.
By the way, this is the reason that I write a check every now and then to Judicial Watch and also the ACLJ. If you have a couple of bucks to rub together, you might want to consider doing the same thing.
Judge Walton was the presiding judge in the case, and he's looking at the government saying, well, you know, I'm not sympathetic to you here.
Nor should he be. Nor should he be at all. Because let me conclude with this thought tonight. Can you name for me any other private agency or business that would be able to somehow get away with deferring immediate reaction or production of documents in terms of response to the loss of a lawsuit, especially from the U.S. government? Your business or your agency would produce the documents, or you'd find yourselves in contempt of court, of the issuing court. And then subsequently you would be invaded by law enforcement officers, probably wearing blue windbreakers with yellow letters on the back. And they would be confiscating whatever the hell it is that the court told them to take. And then telling that court to its face, now, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We'll get back to you in about half a year.
Monsieur has been
No, that ain't going to cut it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can read my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. You can find me on Twitter, @bzep, @bzep. And my original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be concerting when I get home. And on a holiday eve, thanks to each and every one of you so kindly for listening live, for taking advantage of chat, for watching the show on YouTube, watching the show on Facebook. Thanks for all of that. God bless. God bless America. God bless you. Take care. Be safe. Have a great 4th of July. See you Thursday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.